Gamer Subs teamed up with MetaZoo to drop a limited time flavor. If you guys want to get your hands on it before it sells out, make sure to save yourself 10% with code GM. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's G-Miners here, and in this video, we are completely recapping everything in Wrath of the Machine. Either Wrath or King's Fall is returning next season. This video is to help people get a refresher on the mechanics and the challenges, which should be nearly the same in D2. I already made a full video for King's Fall, so make sure to check that out if you haven't already. When you guys spawn in, there is going to be an entrance similar to King's Fall and Vault of Glass. Your goal here is to run around the arena collecting voltage stacks and depositing them in foundry spinners. Spinners are the things that are located on the mid, left, and right sides. The voltage can be collected by running through these white spots located all over, and then your goal is to get a total of 4 stacks, which will then read voltage maxed. After getting 4 stacks, you can then deposit them in these spinners. It doesn't matter which one, they are all linked, and 5 total dunks are going to be required to move on to damage. Also, while depositing voltage, make sure to defend each spinner from voltage eater shanks that revert your progress. After all the spinners are completely charged, they are going to spit out Siva balls, which you can throw at VOSIK. You need to take down his shield and then damage him until his shield goes back up. From here, just repeat these steps, and when his health is low enough, VOSIK will then retreat, and you will be moving on to the first encounter. The first encounter is also fighting VOSIK, but this time you get to kill him. You're going to want your team to hold the 3 main lanes in this arena, these being left, right, and middle. As you kill adds, Siva charges will start to drop from the ceiling. 1 will drop on each side, so this is going to be 3 charges in total. Players must grab each of these charges and throw them at VOSIK to bring down his shield. Throwing at the same time should deal more damage, so make sure to time this with your team. And note that it will take a few sets of the charges to bring his full shield down to actually reach a damage phase. As this is happening, and 3 players on your team are throwing charges, a monitor in the back wall behind VOSIK will turn on. This will have some fallen symbols on it. The other 3 players need to shoot and destroy this monitor, otherwise it will start the wipe mechanic early. So make sure to always destroy these ASAP. Once his shield is down, deal damage and make sure to also throw the extra Siva charges that drop during this phase, as they are a solid boost in damage. When VOSIK's shield is regained, he will then trigger a wipe mechanic where your team will need to head to one of the 4 airlocks in the corners of the arena. One of them will glow, so you should go to this one and then shoot the panel on the right hand side to activate the barrier. This will save your team, and when it opens back up, you simply repeat these mechanics to kill VOSIK. Also, these protective rooms do have a one-time use. The challenge for VOSIK is going to be somewhat of a shit show, especially if we have it on day 1. For challenge mode, you need to use both of the safe rooms that are active after a damage phase. I think 2 should always glow yellow, even in the normal mode, so now you just have to make sure you use both of them. This means that you will only have 3 damage phases in total, and then on top of this, when breaking the locks to seal the safe rooms, rather than doing this with a weapon, you need to use the Siva charges. That means you need to save these charges that drop during the damage phase, and I think you also, in general, just need to use all 4 safe rooms, making this a forced 3-phase no matter what. Up next is the Siege Engine encounter. There is a metric fuck ton of adds in this encounter, so make sure you are prepared to deal with them. When the encounter starts, you will have around 1 minute before the Siege Engine reaches your team and wipes you. What you need to do is start by shooting both of the cannons on the top of the engine, and then dump ammo straight into the exposed orange core. After enough damage is dealt, the core will be overloaded, and you can jump onto the engine and continue in the encounter. After breaching through the first wall, the engine will break, and then you must go gather parts dropped by killing all the adds at the other side of the next wall. These parts are the drive shaft, engine block, and the warhead. Each of these need to be brought back and placed into their proper spots, but when holding them, you will be encumbered and move extremely slow. You can hold them for 10 seconds, and then you will be exhausted for another 10 seconds where you can't hold anything. Your goal here is just to pass these off between your team until you get back to the engine. When you reach the engine, you need to kill the yellow bar captain on top of it to lower a ramp to bring up the parts. The drive shaft goes in the close right slot, the warhead goes in the middle, and the engine block goes into the back. After this, you crash through the second wall, jump down, and complete the encounter. After the siege engine, you reach AKSIS, but there is a pre-boss encounter that you need to complete. Here, your team will add clear on the mid, left, and right sides until 3 yellow health captains spawn. 1 spawns on each side, each with different elements. There will be a void, arc, and solar shielded captain. Killing them will drop the same elemental affinity scorch cannon, which must be grabbed by 1 player. The captain's death will also trigger elemental servitors to spawn. These don't attack or aggro your team, but instead will beeline to reach a plate in the back of the arena. If they reach these plates, your team will wipe. Servitors will only take damage from a Scorch Cannon of matching affinity, and they will not spawn on the same side of the matching captain's affinity. Players with cannons must find their servitor, kill it, and then the servitors will drop Siva charges. These charges must then be picked up by other players and thrown at the Siva diamonds around the center of the arena. Also note that if a player drops a cannon, they cannot grab a Siva charge, but they will be able to pick their cannon back up. After destroying all the diamonds, AKSIS will then spawn a wave of shanks from the ceiling. Just kill these and then you repeat the mechanics. During the first wave, you need to break 2 diamonds, then there are 3 on the second wave, and then finally 7 on the last wave. Servitors will spawn in excess, so if you do happen to miss a Siva charge, it isn't the end of the world, but you can't miss too many. After completing the 3rd encounter, you are finally onto the AKSIS fight. You need to shoot AKSIS to start this encounter. This is going to be very similar to the previous one, except you will now be dealing more with AKSIS as he roams around and will need to deal damage. Eventually, in this encounter, 3 players will randomly become empowered. After this is when the captains will spawn, which should be killed, along with the servitors. And also, once again, the Siva charges should be picked up. All 3 Siva charges must be thrown at AKSIS in the middle to bring down his shield, where a damage phase will begin. AKSIS will then randomly teleport left, right, front mid, or back mid. One of the 3 empowered players must quickly reach him, jump on his back, and interact with him to stun him for around 15 seconds. This is where your team should deal damage. After stunning each and every time, 3 new players will randomly get empowered, so you will constantly need to be spreading out to stun Taniks at multiple different locations. Failure to stun him will end the damage phase early. In total, he will TP 3 times. The 3rd time he TPs and is stunned will be a slightly longer damage cycle, and then after the damage phase is over is when a critical Siva state will proc, where your team is going to be wiped. To survive this, stand on one of the 4 cylinders in the back. Repeat these mechanics to bring AKSIS to final stand, where you'll need to finish off his health in mid before he wipes your team. For the challenge, the only difference is that players who are empowered will also need to utilize the supercharged mechanic. Now, this mechanic exists in the regular version of the raid, but it isn't required to be used. When AKSIS TPs and needs to be stunned, the 2 players who are not stunning will need to go and find a plate in the back of the room that is glowing red. These are the same exact plates that the servitors try to go to in order to also wipe your team. One of these will be glowing, and only one of the players who is not stunning will need to deposit their empowerment in here. This will give your whole team supers, but failure to do this will fail the challenge mode. This needs to be done for each and every TP, so make sure to position your team so that when AKSIS does not TP to a side, the other players will be able to quickly activate supercharged in a few seconds. The plate will never spawn on the same side that AKSIS TPs to. And with that, you should now be refreshed on everything that is needed in the Wrath of the Machine raid. I'm personally hoping this is what comes back on the 26th, but we will see. If you guys do want someone to watch on day 1 for strats, pacing, or just for fun, a link to my Twitch is in the description below. And also, don't forget to check out the King's Fall recap if you haven't already. Anyways, that's all for this video, guys. As always, have a good one. Peace.